Think about being on stage for America's Got Talent. The audience is standing, but you're looking at Simon Cowell. He doesn't need to clap, therefore he doesn't lean back when Simon seems moved. You've done something very unusual, like he's been hit by brilliance. That was Courtney Hadwin back in 2018. At only 13, her strong voice blew everyone away. Simon took care of her, and with his record label behind her, Courtney felt like she was going to become famous. But things didn't turn out the way they were supposed to. The fame, the lights, and the help all went away. What went wrong? What went wrong? Today, we're going to talk about Courtney Hadwin's ascent, collapse, and surprising journey. What is she doing now? Let's see. Only a child. Simon Cowell says he never cries, though. He's the rugged guy who has made stars, broken dreams, and done it all without a second thought. But when he first heard Courtney Hadwin sing, he almost cried. Courtney's journey on the outside looked simple, but the truth was very different. It all started with the show America's Got Talent. But before we talk about Courtney's time on AGT, let's go over how she got there. Courtney was born on July 6, 2004, and grew up in Hesleden, a small village that used to be a mining town near Hartlepool in County Durham, northeast England. Paul and Anne-Marie were her parents, and she grew up with her younger siblings, Paul and Melissa. Courtney's life was full of music from a young age, much like with many other brilliant young singers. When she was a little girl, she started singing at home. As she got older, she tried her hand at musical theater and then worked on her voice by singing covers. But it wasn't until she saw Connie Talbot on Britain's Got Talent that she really wanted to sing. Courtney says she started singing well when she was about 9 or 10 years old. At 11, while she was still in primary school and just after she started at the academy, she sang Say Something by A Great Big World and Christina Aguilera during an open mic at Shot 10 Hall at lunch. That video was put on Facebook and rapidly became popular in the area. Her classmates were impressed by how well she sang, and several of them pushed her to explore her soulful ability right away. She made sure to do what they said. She loved to sing and write songs, after all. Later, Courtney's granddad would say that she started busking in public places to pay for singing lessons and family trips. She didn't make much money, but she was able to attend classes at several local schools, such as Shot 10 Hall Theatre School, Peanuts Master Classes, Kate Sear's School of Music, and Vocal Ovation by Julie Miles. But she didn't fight in her first big competition until 2015, when she went on Teen Star UK in Newcastle. She made it to the grand final with her cover of Bob Dylan's Make You Feel My Love, which got her noticed early on for her unique voice. The next year, when she was 12, she won Hartlepool's Performer of the Year title and made it to the finals of the Beyond the Lights Awards. She also tried out for Open Mic UK in 2016, singing a version of Nothing Compares to You as she became more popular on local stages. That summer, she opened for Sister Sledge at the South Tyneside Festival, which had more than 18,000 people there. A turning point that made many people realize what they had been thinking. She wasn't just another local performer. She was on her way to becoming a star. The next year, Courtney was back on another show. This time, it was The Voice Kids UK. Her aggressive performance of Tina Turner's Nutbush City Limits got her a position on Danny Jones' team. She made it to the battle round with Dancing in the Street, then to the semi-final with I Got You, I Feel Good by James Brown. She finished the final with And I Am Telling You I'm Not Going, making her a finalist. During these early years, Courtney earned a reputation for her hard work. She started taking lessons when she was 11 years old and kept them up into her teens. She practiced vocal exercises every day. These formative years, grounded in her humble village beginnings and enhanced by open mic nights, competitions, and live performances throughout northern England, influenced not just her manner of presentation but also her determination to succeed. And it helped a lot that she had a strong support system that was willing to help her reach her goals. From the start, Courtney's family was always there for her and helped her along the way. Her mother saw her raw talent and said the performance was better than she had hoped. Her father worked on the side to help her reach her goal, bringing Courtney pizzas and helping her pay for gas so she could go to auditions and open mic nights all around the Northeast. When she was on The Voice Kids UK and then on AGT, her family moved to LA to help her. Her father even traveled back and forth so she could compete while she was still in school. Courtney's family was always there for her, even when she was busy with TV appearances, record deals, and international fame. She has said in public that they keep her grounded, reminding her of home and keeping her passion alive instead of making it a burden. Their faith in her, not her celebrity or awards, gave her a solid base that let her voice travel across continents while her heart stayed in Hesleden. By early 2018, Courtney had built up enough momentum and recognition from this support that she was asked to audition for season 13 of America's Got Talent. That invitation didn't come from a family decision to go on Britain's Got Talent. Instead, it came from show producers looking for international talent. It was great for young Courtney, but she had no idea that it would be the start of her rise from local star to international star, and her life would never be the same again. Tremendous city, tremendous hopes. Courtney was only 13 when she went on stage for America's Got Talent. She was a modest, somewhat shy schoolgirl from County Durham, England. She looked frightened, uncomfortable, and not like a star at all. But when the first notes of Otis Redding's Hard to Handle started, everything changed. Her voice was unique, it was rough, strong, and older than her years. And as it blew up in the studio, the embarrassed schoolgirl who had walked through the curtains was no longer there. There was a new Courtney in her place, crazy energy, harsh vocals, and full authority. The crowd couldn't stay calm either. Everyone was wondering how a girl this young could have such a strong voice. Simon couldn't even resist the lure. And as he sat still, shocked into silence, his trademark poker mask broke, and the words "nobody forgot" came out of his mouth. "You were very shy when you came out. You sing and sound like a lion." Howie Mandel was the first to respond. He punched the golden buzzer, which sent Courtney to the live shows. Then he said that her voice was from another time. And it even made him think of Janis Joplin, one of the best blues rock singers ever. But Howie wasn't the only one who thought she was great. Her audition video became viral in just a few hours. By the time Tyra Banks introduced her later in the broadcast, the video had been watched more than 310 million times. Isn't it crazy? By the time the quarterfinals were on, people all over the world were dubbing her a generational talent or even a phenomenon. There aren't many singers like her, and we were lucky to have Courtney. She made it to the quarterfinals and then the semifinals, each time putting on amazing shows that made it hard to tell if she was a child or an old soul singer. At the end of the competition, she had fans all across the world. But in the end, she couldn't take the crown home. She came in 6th overall, which surprised a lot of people. AGT was still her big break. It gave her a chance to reach an American audience and a global stage. She came back to compete on AGT, the champions, in 2019. But at that time, her path had already changed. Simon had something more spectacular planned for her, even though it wasn't his golden buzzer that got her to the live shows. He signed her to his label, Psycho Music, with Arista soon after the live digs in 2018. Just like that, 13-year-old Courtney was on her path to becoming a music star. But it's not easy to deal with fame and money. And for a 13-year-old, the stress of the business quickly became too much to bear. Everyone wants a piece of it. It was in the middle of 2018, not long after Courtney left the AGT stage with a shower of confetti. The world was already watching her, but the industry needed more than simply a moment that went viral. They wanted a celebrity. Fame came quite swiftly after that. Her audition was shown on talk shows and news pieces all across the world. People said she was the next Janis Joplin in the news. The British soul star, or even the 13-year-old who sang like a pro. She became famous in America overnight and quickly became a topic of interest in the UK. Then December came, and with it came the bargain that transformed Courtney's life. Courtney secured a long-term recording and publishing deal with Psycho Music and Arista Records when she was only 14 years old. She said in interviews after the announcement that she was really happy to be joining the organization. She said it was a dream come true to be able to write her own songs and be loyal to herself and the music she enjoyed. But she was completely wrong. Courtney, who was 14 at the time, didn't know that all that joy came with a lot of stress. She was still a teenager and still figuring out how to breathe on stage. And now everyone expected her to make music that was ready for the charts. Interviews and commercial appearances in a machine made for adults. How could she deal with all of these? Courtney talked about how the pressure grew backstage that season. She had to perform, finish the show, and get people excited. Every week, not just once. Howie's cheers kept her grounded and fueled her fire, but the nerves were threatening to take control. Record executives started to market her as a brand behind the scenes. They talked about her voice, her look, and her stage presence. The similarities to Janis Joplin were interesting, but they were also a trap. Courtney was split between the artist she wanted to be and the product she was supposed to be. At the age of 14, she began going to studio sessions with songwriters, producers, and managers in the music business. All of which led her to a polished pop-soul crossover. Courtney, on the other hand, was still figuring out how to speak and how to do art. She subsequently said that everyone around her were telling her what she should sound like, who she should be, and how she lost control of her destiny as her early teens went by while she was in studios. It was both exciting and tiring. She was going back and forth between the UK and the US and was supposed to record originals, shoot ads, and be ready for the media. It was too much for a teenager who still lived at home. Everything seemed strange and lonely. Even though YouTube comments and fan messages applauded her raw energy, Courtney was privately having trouble feeling in charge of her profession. But the early excitement didn't stop. Critics were amazed by her intensity, stage presence, and the adult grit in her voice. Producers called her a natural force. Rolling Stone-style reviews lauded how she came in like a hurricane. Still, she said in private that she sometimes felt like a character being directed, even while she was singing her own music. She talked about dozens of writing sessions where she had to go along with ideas or sounds that she didn't really agree with. Before long, she was asking herself, is this me or what they want me to be? Fame came quickly and it felt heavy. People thought Courtney was going to be a star, but she felt like a teenage girl torn between her own feelings and the strain of never-ending expectations. That tension made what happened next possible. Too much, too quickly. Fame is good. It's even great. But what if you were a teenager who wasn't even old enough to vote? It sounds like a horrible existence to have to deal with the complex music industry. Well, that's because it kind of was for Courtney. Don't misunderstand her. It wasn't that she didn't like the life and the fruits of her hard work and everything else that came with it. It was just too much, too soon. Courtney's life became a whirlwind as soon as she joined Psycho Arista. Her life quickly became all about deadlines, meetings, and recording sessions. Not writing songs on her own terms, but a strict assembly line that makes hits. And for someone who had discovered happiness in what seemed like small things, like having creative power, all of these things felt too much. We've said it over and over again, she was just 14. And she was already in back-to-back sessions where she had to write polished pop soul songs in a short amount of time. A normal day may start with breakfast in the UK, talks with label executives by midday, and a long trip to a US studio by night. There were sometimes other producers in those sessions who would present rhythms, hooks, and themes that Courtney didn't always agree with. She thought about it later and realized that this was merely a minor example of how her creative ideas were often drowned out by industrial voices. She started to feel disconnected from the songs she was recording as she went through co-writing sessions and production teams. In interviews, she said she was unhappy with how she was shaped into a sound that suited a certain mold. Emotional compromise, filtered approach, and smooth pop production that didn't match her rough vocal background. She was still figuring out who she was as an artist, but she felt like she had to fit in. That stress made her less sure of herself and changed what had been satisfying into something that wasn't. Her voice was more mature than most college students, but her intellect was still that of an adolescent. Courtney quickly started to feel mentally drained. In interviews backstage, she talked about times when she felt overwhelmed, as when she had to close the performance every week and keep the intensity of the finale while attempting to keep herself together. Even when Howie and fans praised her, she felt like she had a lot of weight on her. She even said she felt alone, traveling between continents, surrounded by suits, missing home, and missing being real. And this is when the withdrawal started. It began softly but steadily. First, the posts on social media started to go down. Next, she was less visible in the news. Fans were frightened, and soon they started to wonder where she was. Did you disagree on creative things? Was she sick? And what was worse? There weren't any public updates to let supporters know what was going on. This, together with speculation in the media, started to spread rumors. Did Courtney have an accident? Was she on a hospital bed? Where was Courtney? She was still here, but she was taking a break to get back to herself and get away from the stress. Courtney later teased upcoming material that felt angry and real, with lyrics like, "You only want me when I'm smiling," signaling deeper emotional undercurrents. She hinted that there was more depth, more pain, more honesty waiting to be unpacked. And with the rumor mills twisting and turning, everyone was eager to find out what had happened to the doe-eyed young girl who strutted onto the stage all those years ago. The silence between them. The years slipped by quietly. The industry never stopped chattering, but Courtney receded. Simon moved forward with the next season, already on the search for the next talent. And just like that, the connection between him and Courtney, that partnership, ceased. It became a transaction, and it faded into silence. From the outside looking in, it might have seemed like something more. But the truth is, Simon was never a personal mentor to Courtney. He was the executive who cast her, the gatekeeper who signed her, and he was also the man who appeared at public events, made the announcement, and then left her world to business as usual. And you couldn't even blame the guy. His job was to spot talent, not navigate its emotional fallout. Although Courtney never spoke publicly about bitterness toward Simon, many speculated that she harbored ill feelings toward him. After all, he was the driving force behind her joining the label. But even as a young girl, she understood the machinery of the industry, and she understood that Simon was only a part of it, not a confidant. Still, in hindsight, that absence felt meaningful. She was a product to be managed, rather than a young artist to be nurtured. Over the next few years, Courtney's activity on social platforms dwindled. She built trust with independent producers, and Kevin Ball was a turning point, but publicly, it seemed she'd disappeared. Meanwhile, Simon returned to his role as judge, executive, star-maker, with no mention of Courtney's turmoil, no commentary on how the system may have faltered, just the next audition and the next show. Even though life on the shoulders of a big company wasn't all it had been advertised to be, Courtney still held on to her love for music. Slowly, she began rebuilding. Writing, recording, and releasing music independently. Meanwhile, Simon watched from television screens and headlines, never implicating himself in the weight she bore. Critics praised her new voice as raw and fearless, but Simon's public narrative remained silent. Courtney finds her voice again. There's a certain beauty in regaining your agency. When it seems that all the world wants is to strip it from you. And by 2025, Courtney returned as a different person. After quietly stepping away from the AGT spotlight and her early label contract, she re-emerged as an independent artist, determined to create music on her terms. Her path forward centered on creative ownership, working with Grammy-winning producer Kevin Ball, known for collaborations with Etta James and Joe Cocker. She began writing and recording songs that felt true, not polished for radio, but honest in emotion. Among these were Monsters, You Only Love Me When I Lie, Breakable, and That Girl Don't Live Here, each exploring themes of vulnerability, anger, resilience, and identity. In interviews, Courtney emphasized just how different things felt. No top-down deadlines, no need to fit a label's mold. As she put it, everyone around me was telling me who I should be. Now I know who I am as an artist. She called this era a rebirth, consciously creating music that aligned with her own experiences. People who liked it and people who didn't like it. People called her song You Only Loved Me When I Lie a raw blues soul anthem. Critics said it was her most emotionally intense song ever, full of the strain of concealed grief and the bravery to tell the truth. Her larger work, Little Miss Jagged, which comes out on September 12, 2025, has been called her most daring and personal work to yet. Fans were very involved, and a stripped-down, mic-less video performance of You Only Love Me When I Lie left people speechless. Journalists said she sounded like thunder and burned like flames, applauding her passion and realness. Courtney, who is now 20, has now talked about how her early stardom affected her emotionally. She talked about feeling burned out, losing control, and the pressure she felt to perform before she was ready. She talked on how hard it was to figure out who she was because of the pressure from the industry, and how getting her voice back felt like getting her strength back. Her stage presence came back on her own terms, and her songs were full of scars and determination. She no longer cared about getting acclaim. Now she wanted to interact with people and be seen. And Simon still thinks about the 13-year-old who caught his eye all those years ago. A number of viral videos and trending retrospectives recently brought up the assumption that he had broken his long silence over Courtney's career path. The clips say that he hardly ever seems vulnerable on television because he doesn't have time for feelings. But in these versions, he stopped the interview for a moment, which he doesn't do very often, and then sighed, as if he had been carrying a heavy burden for too long. He is believed to have said, "We expected too much too soon," and then added, "She was a kid. I believe we let her down." They said his voice broke. His calmness faltered as his feelings became clear. Not like the judge that millions of people know. We haven't seen a respected journalist or mainstream news organization capture these words yet, but there's little doubt that he knows about her new job. But what if these assertions were true? Think about how Simon might have silently thought about Courtney's early years in the public eye. He would remember how shocked he was by her audition, how raw her energy was that he nicknamed her a lion, and how soon that spark became into a flame that others sought to shape. He might talk about how business schedules took the place of crafting songs, or how celebrity took her away from herself. Maybe he finally understood that he had put a small child in a machine that was too huge for her. Simon is said to have admitted something, but it seems like a faint echo now that Courtney has rebuilt herself, left her label, written with Kevin Bowe, and released music that felt real again. Her songs, such as "You Only Love Me When I Lie" and "Monsters," are personal. They take away expectations and show the truth as it is. Courtney is no longer just the kid who went viral for singing her heart out on America's Got Talent. Now, think of her as a grounded artist. She lives in the UK now and has a personal life that includes music, ambition, family, and being true to herself. She still thinks of County Durham as her home. Having moved a few years ago to find a new sense of freedom after leaving her label. Courtney has fans all over the world, but her heart is still in the northeast of England, where she allegedly lives with a small but committed staff and continues to take strength from her local roots. She still talks to friends from her early days in Hesleden and Peterlee. She also writes with her hands. Who sometimes talks about how her creative process unfolds at home when it's quiet, with her laptop and her thoughts coming together to make verses. Her presence has stayed strong after she took a sabbatical from social media. Courtney is quite active online, with over 1 million followers on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. She does this not to promote herself but to make connections. When she's not busy cooking in the studio, she posts short videos of what goes on behind the scenes, talks about mental health, workout routines, changes in her style, like trying out a straight or flaming red hair look, and scenes from her life on the weekends. People say her content is honest and true in a way that is refreshing. This year, she talked about the problems with social media on a live stream. She said that TikTok can be too much for her at times. Yet she likes that YouTube is a place where she can share music and her life without feeling rushed. She often does Q&A sessions on Instagram stories and thanks her fans for their thoughts. She is open about her mental health journey, which is helping to make therapy and self-reflection more normal in ways that many young artists don't want to. A lot of her postings are about growth, setting limits, and taking care of yourself. One interview said that she is looking forward to finishing her record, but not at the expense of perfection. She wants the process to seem natural instead of contrived. She departed MNTWS because of creative conflicts that kept her from reaching her full potential. In early 2025, she joined with Total Artist Management, Oliver Mojita's new management team. With her current crew, she's been scheduling shows all across the UK and Europe and making plans for shows in the US. She's done gigs at places like Fiddler Elbow in London and is planning bigger trips. One of the best parts was when she played at Carnegie Hall in April 2024. Clive Davis chose her to launch a gala where she paid tribute to Janis Joplin in front of industry icons. That moment got a lot of attention and was seen as an indication of her gaining creative esteem. Courtney's life now revolves around artistic work and personal improvement. She does travel from time to time and visits US studios, but most of the time she stays at home writing and recording with Kevin Bow. They are working on her first album, which will come out in September. There are bits of rock, soul, and punk music on the album, and interviews demonstrate that she's not hesitant to change styles between songs. She even says that every track feels like its own mood ring. People that support her know that she is open to change and isn't hesitant to reveal how it happens. So whether she posts a snapshot of her home office or an untidy studio bookcase, or that she's just done penning the day's songs, fans celebrate. This transparency has helped her maintain a genuine bond with her audience. She has done more than become famous. People think you're brave and real. Courtney has made it obvious that she isn't looking for popularity in 2025. She's taking care of it in her own way, living simply, making things that are real, and displaying flaws before the shine. And in doing so, she's developing more than a musical career. She's claiming her narrative back. If there's one thing Courtney's path through the industry has taught us, it's that the entertainment industry in particular doesn't quite seem well equipped to manage child stars or skills. It's already hard for an adult to be there. How much extra for someone who isn't even old enough to drive? Fortunately, Courtney was able to climb above. She pushed through the noise and emerged out the other side as a different person with a different view on life and music. And although her road wasn't always easy, her determination and hard work kept her from giving up when things became tough. What do you think about Courtney's journey? Please let us know in the comments below. Thanks for taking the time to watch. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel so you can get updates when we post new ones.